Why, hello, Jeff Africa, Jeff, his Last Dance, the channel where we're making it from the head to the heart and living a whole new heart-centered life, creating a heart-centered world. All forgiveness, all surrender, all acceptance, all allowance, and no resistance. All forgiveness, all surrender, all acceptance, all allowance, and no resistance. All forgiveness, all surrender, all acceptance, all allowance, and no resistance. Get familiar with that mantra, something I've just put together of many things I've put together. You put together your own. But that is a very powerful one, and that's the attitude we must have toward life. That's what gets us to the heart-centered reality. That mantra right there, live throughout the day, will get you to where we want to go. You know, if that alone, really, if you are persistent about it, without having to do all the gyrations I do necessarily, really, seriously. Everybody has their own way here, their own path here. There's no one way to do this, okay? Something I've been noticing, I look at the computer, the news page at the computer, okay, check out the stories and stuff like that. You know, I don't watch TV news very much, occasionally, but not very much. Go by it quickly, see. Especially now with the stuff going on. But that page is getting smaller and smaller and smaller, receding backwards as you know, as I've go through the months. You know, it's like getting smaller and smaller, like this, going this way, because I'm not. Most of the things on that page don't really apply to me anymore. You know what I mean? They don't fit into my reality anymore. Had to get the clock. They're just gyrations of the 3D world. You know, whatever story, the sports story, entertainment, or what's going on here, who says something about what, who's upset about whatever, who made a great trade to this. You know, who's number one on the charts. You know, who, what political stunt is being played out. All those things are starting to recede into the background. Okay, so it's not like I was, hung on the news most of my life. You know what I mean? It's starting to recede away. All these gyrations and convulsions of this 3D world that, for the most part, have absolutely no meaning. Okay, they really don't. I was wondering if you noticed that too. I was taking a walk yesterday, and I went by these beautiful roses. The color, the red, the crimson red color. And I walked up to them, and I walked kind of on the lawn and smelled that rose-colored smell. If you want to understand the mind of the Creator, understand that not only does the rose have that beautiful velvety color to it, but the smell of a rose. She created the smell of a rose that isn't a match with that rose flower. And I stood in front of them, just absorbing the floweriness of them and the beautiful crimson colored. I recommend you do the same. When you ever see a wall of flowers, I go by this wall of bougainvillea, this violet. These are violet. They have different colors, bougainvillea. These are violet. I just stand there and absorb that color and that floweriness, it is a worthwhile moment to take as you go throughout your day. You see something like that, stop for a minute and smell that flower and look at that flower and behold the mind of God. In that flower, you behold the mind of God, essentially. You want to understand the sensibilities of our God? Understand that there. You know, it's just another example of what a way this world has been put together. The flight of an eagle. I have a story for you. I will tell some of the time about eagles. It's an amazing story. Okay, we're going to do a review today. We're going to stick with this intellectualism. One more thing, because I have a couple things came to mind, and we're going to hit it one single more time. I'm going to try to make this not a long video. And then we'll do start doing the reviews next week as entertaining as I can make them. Okay, I had a lot of videos since the last review. I will have to take them from the last review, and then go through probably 2 or 3 different reviews of what we've discussed since the last review. That way, anybody coming into this can take. I can just say, look, take a look at the reviews, and you'll get caught up. Basically, that's what we want to do, because most likely people aren't going to be listening to every little video I've done, right? See, and this is not a good way to present what I'm presenting. This whole thing, we're going to stick with it, but it is really not a very good way to do this, but we're going to follow through. We're doing it anyway. I'm doing something here, but this is a preliminary exploration of how I want to get this done, and we'll refine, or we'll change course, whatever, as we move forward at some point. Another thing I forgot to, as I was talking about intellectualism coming from our universities, in this book, Critical Race Theory, one of the postulates is, in order to redress past incidents of racism, current reverse racism is the way to do it, or one way of doing it, So what has been grown on our college campuses now is white racism, okay? There are movements of the browns and blacks are creating reverse racism, okay? Basically, it's just they're just getting back. They're like children getting back at us for whites being racist for so long toward them, So, and maybe there's sort of group karma involved here too. Who knows? Because whites, have been really stupid in the past. There's no question about that. As far as things like that go, they, holy shit. But so now it's in that book is, okay, so we're going to redress the past racism. We're going to be racist ourselves, So now there's white racism, and it's allowed by the liberal leftist coalition. It's acceptable. I've heard stories, groups of people gathering. This one girl was telling of a gathering. She goes in, she sits down, and she goes, and I don't know who's delivering who's the head of the meeting, but they go, and the white people, you keep your mouth shut. You've spoken enough. Now we're going to speak. You know what I mean? These poor white kids that, probably are racist themselves, or they wouldn't be there. And they're having to pay the price for to redress past racism. And this other black lady on YouTube, this short that was on there, nasty looking piece of work, by the way, with a nose ring, telling white women to shut the F up and just listen to the black and brown women, and they have nothing to say right now. You know what I mean? So it's that attitude. It's white racism now. That's an issue in America, and it's born of this book, this Critical Race Theory book. And that's what I mean about the, and then what blows me away, if people read that crap and they go, okay, then that's what we're going to do. So they start to do it. You know what I mean? Not really realizing that it isn't the way to go forward, okay? It's not the way to go forward, to get nasty back to the whites, get them back for being racist. Now you're going to be racist against the whites that had nothing to do with necessarily past issues of racism in the early since slavery, that whole thing. And so when I say intellectualism breeds stupidity, and sometimes some helpful things, but a lot of stupidity, that's what I mean. And what even more disturbing is the people that take it up. You know what I mean? I mean, they're gross, stupid people that are kind of taking the mantle of now reverse white racism in order to redress racism that has happened many, many years ago, so that's another example of intellectualism gone stupid. You know what I mean? And it is simply not the best way to move forward on this, and it's creating more divisions in us than unifying us as we move forward in love, with finding a way to love, respect, and be thoughtful toward one another. Okay, it's a gross energy that's developed, all based on intellectualism in the colleges. Now, when I say, this is why I wanted to address this. What about here? I've said intellectualism was never meant to take the lead. And what about then balls out philosophers of the ages? Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Kant, Descartes. Spinoza, all these philosophers. What about them? Number one, there's no comparison between those philosophers and the relative idiots we have in our collegiate system today. They're kind of like the children of the intellectual movement in there. They're really truly. But when you talk about balls out philosophers, the big boys, what about them? You know what I mean? Don't they count? I mean, and don't they have some pretty penetrating thought going on? And doesn't society sort of begin to coalesce and form around their thinking, and as a way to move forward? Really, they begin to think about what is being said, and they begin to seep into the political sphere and the civic sphere. And don't they follow some of those philosophers? John Locke. That is in the Western way of looking at things, especially in the mental, because this is intellectual mental, as opposed to the Eastern, which is more spiritual. That is a way of looking at it. And it's a very interesting discussion, about that, about how potent that is. But yes, we could say that there is a place for those big philosophers. You know what I mean? The real serious ones. Number one, those type of philosophers, there is a certain of wisdom involved in what they're doing, as opposed to some of the things going on today, where they're just freak events, freak happenings. But there are we could say that yes, they do belong in the movement of humanity. Those philosophers, and they can be potent in a certain sense. And I haven't read a lot of philosophers. I've read books on history of philosophy, and then they brush up against the certain, how the way it started in Greece and through Rome, Marcus Aurelius, to the Renaissance. There's nothing about the Renaissance, about Renaissance thinking. Wasn't that really a leader in pulling us out of the Middle Ages from the Dark Ages? And wasn't that potent? And yes, to a degree, yes. But I would argue that the Renaissance was about a burst of energy coming up that affected all areas: art, philosophical thinking, politics, all those things. But it was mainly that energy that had to come up because it was being repressed, and it affected all of the goings on, and philosophy was just one of them. But yes, so there is that to be said and that to be had. That could be a long discussion. Like I say, we're getting a little bit off the track here, admittedly, because we're into heart-centered beingness and getting that going. But we're just following these thought patterns, and I've been thinking about that as I said these last things in the last video. But how can, number one, as we move forward, how can you have a philosophy that doesn't include the Creator? You know what I mean? The divine Creator that we all know now exists. At least I do. You may not, but you will one day, okay? There's no doubt about it. How can you have a philosophy of life that doesn't include the Creator, Mother and Father God? From what I can piece together lately is this. There's a supreme Creator that's over everything. And then there's Father and Mother God. A divine and feminine, masculine God that are almost a subset of that supreme Creator. Okay, now I'm not pretending I have an in on that, but that's kind of, as I piece together, that's pretty good. Okay, so there's different categories, I guess you could say, and how can you have a philosophy that doesn't include the people, the Creator and Mother, Father God that are responsible for creating us? You know what I mean? Really, we're all children of God. Okay, we are all peace and childs of God. How can we have a philosophy that doesn't include that reality? Okay, so that is as we develop philosophical thinking, especially in the fifth dimension, that's going to be part of philosophical thought. Okay, the idea of the Creator, and You simply cannot have separated philosophical thought without the idea of understanding this whole world and how it was put together by infinite intelligence, okay? And that's going to be part of philosophy as we get into the fifth dimension. It has to be, really. In the Western world we separate them. In the Eastern India they don't separate them. It's all their philosophical discussions include things like the divine creator, sort of things like that. And then beyond this, if you take philosophy seriously and you study philosophy all the way down through history, then you become a scholar. Okay, you're a scholar and you know a lot about what philosophical thinking has been. Okay, now the Easterners, the yogis, can call a scholar a jackass carrying a bunch of books. You know what I mean? That's what they term a scholar. And to a certain extent, that's what they call it, compared to what they understand is most important moving forward. So you study philosophy, now you're a philosophical teacher, you're a scholar, okay? But that's the end of it, and there can be some good to be had there. But compare that with ideas like liberated consciousness, self-realization, which is the realization that we are God. Okay, that is self-realization. You become an embodiment of God or the divine creator. Cosmic consciousness, heart-centered awareness is what we're after here. Samadhi, the idea of samadhi, the divine illumined beingness that perceives and receives the divine presence within and around us. Okay, what about see the difference between philosophical thought? Okay, and those concepts I'm outlining right now, everything I just said, as the spiritual aspect of philosophy, really spiritual philosophy, we could say. Okay, and those things, what I'm describing, are much more potent than a scholar is. Okay, where he understands how the greatest philosophers in history have tried to piece together what's happening here on Earth and the laws and all those types of things. And these powerful things are where is where what I'm trying to tell you is number one. Okay. Those ideas, self-realization and cosmic consciousness, all of these things, the one that particularly attracts me, illumined beingness that perceives and divine presence within, it perceives and receives divine presence within and without. Okay, that's what. If you want to know what the ecstasy part of a magic mushroom trip is, that's it there. Okay, you become an illumined being and you begin to perceive and receive divine presence within you and without everything in your sphere. Okay, that's what the ecstasy I was trying to describe to you early on the first part of that mushroom experience. That's it there. I felt that I was an illumined being, and I was perceiving and receiving God consciousness within me and without. Okay, that's the description there. Okay, so hooray! it was really cool to experience that. But now we're after it in its own right. We're not taking that stuff anymore. Okay, we're going after it in its own right, and that's what we're doing here. The galactics that are all around us right now. Look at this is the most important event. One of the most important events in the history of this universe, the ascension of Earth into the fifth dimension. They're all here. The Arcturians, the Andromedans, the Lyrans, the Sirians. There are a few others. There are many others, but those are some of the main ones. The Pleiadians, the Galactic Federation of Light. They're all here around this planet. Thousands of ships observing this and helping us so we can, most of us, not all of us, but most of us are going to get to the fifth dimension, ascend to the fifth dimension on this planet. See, it's a big, big, big deal. And I know you're thinking, Jeff, you dumb son of a bitch, what are you talking about? I'm telling you, they're all here, okay? They are all here. And it's funny because the astronomers in these universities are still thinking, gee, I wonder if there is life out there. You know what I mean? They have no idea the idea that we have, that They're all here right now. Our CIA, our NSA, our the deep state, they know they're here. They've made contact with them, so they're here. They know that they're here. But our astronomers, the people that should know the most, are still scratching their heads wondering, gee, I wonder if there is life in this universe. You know what I mean? It's a nut job of a thing going on. Then I could piece this together in 4 years. I got my first computer in 2019. I pieced this all together, and I know what I'm talking about because I'm plugged into this stuff. But you know, they're clueless. They're totally clueless. The people that should know the most about this know the least because they're all traps in their head, and they cannot see the fantasticness of what they won't allow them to see of what's going on right now. Anyway, all the galactics around here, their attitude and affiliation with the Supreme Creator is paramount. Almost all their communications involved in the light of the one true Creator. And they consider themselves as an extension of the Supreme Creator, Mother, Father, God, in getting this whole thing done. Okay, getting this ascension done. Okay, they know their role, and they're affiliated, and they know that the Supreme Creator is guiding this through Sananda, Jesus Christ, whose spiritual name is Sananda. Okay, they know, and they always speak of in most of their communications. In the light of the one true God, in the light of the Supreme Creator, as representative of the divine, they're all those very sophisticated civilizations, and they're all God related, and they know that they're God related. Compare that with our universities. You know what I mean? Seriously, compare that. There is no God in our universities. That they feel as though belief in God is unsophisticated, really, and so they're all trapped in their heads doing their intellectual trips. But there is no real God in our universities. The university, the idea of God, even in our religions, is defunct. Our religions have to sort of melt away because they haven't got it right. One of the first things some of the galactics said when they got in touch with some of our higher ups in government, they said, you must dissolve all your religions because they're at best they're a misunderstanding, at worst they're a power and control center. Okay, so the religions are going to be an impediment to us moving forward, and we're going to have to dissolve them and recreate the idea of God, because the whole idea is that we are God. We don't have to go to a religious organization for them to manage God for us. Okay, that's the power trip they're on. Okay, we are God. All we have to do is realize that. There is no God really in this society. There's no wisdom really in America. Let's say, just take America. Where's wisdom really in America? It's not in our universities where it should be. It's not. They're idiots, really. They're children, really, in there. There's no wisdom in our religions if they're working against the flow, the divine flow, with their belief systems. Where is wisdom? In our business community, in our government, in the Congress? No, we have no operative wisdom in this country, and we have no idea of operative God in this country either. Okay, we're in between gods, you could say. All right, and we haven't gotten when you even say the word God, it almost has a negative connotation to it. You know what I mean? And so we're in between gods right now. We're all filled with egos and intellectualism and these types of things that are primitive. Okay, we're primitive when we're compared to the galactics that are around us with all they have some unimaginably huge spaceships they're in up there, and they are all familiar with the divine Creator, and they all look at themselves as the physical arm of the intent of the divine Creator, and the person who is running this whole show, who is running this whole movement right now, the most important movement in humanity, in the universe, right now, Earth, as it ascends with people on it, is Sananda, Jesus Christ. He's the one that's in charge, in a way. So that tells you the potency of spiritual thinking, spiritual thought, compared to philosophical thought. Aristotle isn't running the show. Socrates, Descartes, Plato, they're not running the show. Sananda, he's running the show, okay? A spiritual, enlightened human being, all right? And the archangels, they're running the show, okay? Not the philosophical thinkers. So that tells you, that proves what I am talking about, how important the spiritual quest is, the spiritual relatedness is, as opposed to philosophical thought. Do you see that now? But there is a place for philosophical thought, but it's going to change as we get to the fifth dimension. It's going to include the idea of the all, okay, the beings that have created both me and you. Okay, so that will change. But I just had to bring that up because of I just was thinking about that, and those philosophers, the powerhouses, are different than the children intellectuals running around our university these days, which really are children. They are. Just take my word for it. Okay, go out there and says, Jeff says you're all children. Okay, there, thank you. That's all you have to do. And so. That is what's what when it comes to spiritual thinking as opposed to hardcore philosophical thinking. Okay, spiritual thinking, as it includes everything I've just said, is much more powerful and is number one. Philosophical thinking is number two. Okay, so even when you include the best philosophical thinkers of all times, it's still spirituality trumps them in importance and in the right way to go. So I wanted to clear that up for you. Now, next time, we're going to go into the reviews and start to understand from the last reviews what I've been trying to say. Try to bring it to a cohesive, a shorter, compact way of explaining it, and we'll have fun doing that, okay? Funny thought of the day. Okay, so, familiar with women, and what I've noticed is as women they go through menopause, right? And then once they go through that, they don't have really periods anymore. It's pretty solves that issue, that problem. But what I've noticed in some of the women I've known is that even though they're physically not really going through the period anymore, they seem to add that when it comes. This is I know this is really dicey, but as that time of the month comes, they seem to go through the period effects anyway. They seem to feel as though they are on their period when there is no period to be had. So what I've termed that experience is how I've named that is a ghost period. Okay, that women go through a ghost period, even though they're not going through the physical part of that event. They still go through the mental. And just for one old time's sake, and they go into all their old little things and nastinesses. Just for old time's sake, they go through what I have termed a ghost period. Okay, that it's not really happening, but it's the ghost of a period, and they just don't want to let it go. They have to go through it anyway, and much to our chagrin, the men, having to go through that with them. Because they demand that they cling to that event. Okay, there you go. Funny thought of the day. Jeff Africa, citizen of Earth, loyal patriot of the United States of America, and I stand unafraid. And these four: Mother Earth, Divine Mother, Paramount Yogananda, Jeshua Ben Joseph, Sananda. Okay, they're the same. I've called on them to get me from my head to my heart. Okay, and that's what we're doing here. The glorious, glorious heart, where it's the beginning of everything. It's the beginning of a new life. It's the life we've always been missing, okay, as we've been bouncing around our haunting, endless corridors of a crap-headed mind, okay? The heart-centered reality, creating a heart-centered world, that's what we're after. That's what we're going to achieve here, okay? And that is white racism, all that's going to go by the wayside as we develop ourselves into a heart-centered human being and learn to speak, treat each other with love and respect and thoughtfulness and care and tenderheartedness and humility. Okay, that's the answer, not this intellectual bullshit coming out of the universities that these people think of in their demented state. And that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it. I think it was okay. It was a good one. Hope you're getting one after here. And we're going to let this fall now for a while. Although it's an interesting discussion, everything we've hit to. It's a complex discussion, but we've hit the main points of it, and I'm pretty happy with it. I hope you are too. Have a good day, and I'll see you soon. All right, bye now.